All right, welcome to The Blueprint, powered by K Marketing Co. I am so excited to wrap up our first season of The Blueprint with Eric Stark of Stark Law Group. So, Eric, before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This is always a good way to spend a day doing a podcast like this. So I appreciate you inviting me.
I love when you came in, I asked the first thing, I was like, what did your wife think? Because we know each other personally too. Our sons play baseball together. So sorry, but yeah.
Yes, she was jealous, no doubt about it. So I have a small but growing law firm in Lancaster. We represent individuals primarily involved with employment claims and workers' compensation claims. I have been practicing law in Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania, for about 20 years, slightly more. The years seem to go by a little bit faster each year.
That's very true.
And so that is kind of where we are at. We are fortunate that we're growing. We have another attorney who primarily handles the employment side of the cases, and I primarily handle the workers' comp side of cases. And again, on the employee side, probably 98% of the time.
Awesome. So we're excited today. We're going to dig in. And I know I touched upon this a little bit last episode with Chuck, but we're going to talk about getting the right people in the right roles on your team. And I am so passionate about this topic. Whether you're a business owner or you're in management for your company, I think it is so important that you need to understand your people, right? And when you understand your people and also realize that you're kind of in the position to help your people find out more about themselves and then putting them in the right seat. So I want to start off with kind of asking, give me like an example of what that looks like for you and building a company and putting the right people in the right seats.
Yeah, so I have a really good one. My assistant, who primarily handles the workers' comp day-to-day things for me, is Maddie. And she has been with us now for about 3 years. And I knew her prior to hiring her. She had a dog watching and walking business that we utilize because we have 3 dogs at home. So she came into our house and stayed with them. And not right away, but over the course of time, I recognized with her that she had, in my mind, what it takes to be an effective legal assistant / paralegal once she got some experience. And my wife and I had a date night where she was working sort of more on a full-time basis at a restaurant in E-Town. And she happened to be our server. And I recall speaking with my wife after, and I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but like I think that she has all of the skills to do really well.
Yes.
And I'm looking for someone. And she's like, well, there's no harm in asking. Yeah. So she has excelled. She just kind of fits like a glove in what we do. She understands the workers' compensation concepts. They kind of make sense to her, and she gets it, and she does very well with communication and anticipation. In other words, understanding and anticipating what the needs of a case are before I even ask her. Or
right. That intuitive piece of it.
Yes.
I think that even when we're looking at who we're putting in the right seats, and that was a perfect example of the hire wasn't necessarily based on the skill.
Right.
The skill had to be taught, but the hire was based on personal characteristics of her as an individual.
Yes. And especially in a small office.
Yeah.
We have to have a high degree of personal synergy because we work closely together. You know, we go to the holiday party, and it's not like we can avoid a certain segment of the population. There's
very
5
true.
of us.
There's 5.
Right. And so having that personal connection and the ability to even streamline conversations. Even if those conversations are not always like positive, even if those conversations involve constructive criticism, where you can walk into someone's office and say, here's what we did on this case. This is how I would like it to be different the next time.
Yeah.
if you have a good personal connection and you have the right person in place, it's much easier to even have those kinds of
I
conversations.
agree with that. What is an example of where you had a employee that was maybe in the wrong seat, but was a great fit for the organization? The seat just had to change.
Yes. So really good question. So we currently have an individual who has an associate's degree in paralegal studies. We hired her at the very beginning of this year and explained to her that at the outset, she would kind of need to answer phones and be the sort of the primary voice when someone picks up the phone and calls us. But we were transparent with her when we told her that we understand that, that is not your end goal.
Right.
She's basically right out of school and so didn't really have a full-time work experience prior to joining us. And so it took probably the better part of this year until we fully transitioned her out of that role into more of the day-to-day paralegal type role, which she seems to be doing very well with. And so I think, again, it was important for us to explain that to her on the front end when we hired her into the role that we needed at the time.
Right. And transition her into the role that she was best suited for.
Yes. And had we not given her the opportunity to work the phones for the first, it was about 9 months, she wouldn't have the intimate knowledge, if you will, of what the cases are about, what makes a strong case, what makes a case that we can't pursue legally.
Yeah.
And so it kind of all went together, transitioning her from that starting role to what she's doing now.
One of the examples that I thought of while you were talking is on our team, Alicia never wanted to do sales. She didn't want anything to do with sales. I am not a salesman. I'm not doing sales. Fine. And then I had a situation happen where I was sick and I needed her to do the sales appointment because I didn't want to cancel it. And she rocked it. And what I realized was, even though she kept saying, I don't want to do sales, it was the perception of what sales was.
Sure.
And for her, she looks at sales as a car salesman. Now, there's nothing wrong with car salesmen, but that's not our industry.
Yes.
And really what people are looking for is somebody to sit down, have a knowledgeable conversation about what it is that they need and what services we might be able to provide to come in and partner with them. And what I realized is why she's so great in sales is because she had been doing that. That is her job.
Yes.
And so to naturally come in and not promise all these crazy things, they're basically saying, here's the problem you have. Here's the solution we can offer. Do you want to work with us? And it was really neat to watch her transition into that seat.
Yes.
And almost reevaluate. You're not in sales because selling somebody something. For us, it's not like a car. You don't walk away and that was the end of the relationship. Ours is you're establishing step one of that ongoing relationship.
Right. That's a really good point because I think that one of the challenges that we face, again, particularly in a small business, is that, people, which are, obviously our most important resource.
Yes.
Have to be flexible enough to be able to do more than one thing. And as we grow, we can specialize a little bit more in the sense that, employee X is able to focus strictly on workers' comp because that's his or her strength.
Right.
Employee Y is able to focus on the employment side of things, but being able to kind of have that cross-training and flexibility is just a really critical, essential part of building and growing.
And one of the cool things that you said about flexibility specifically is we have really been working in the last couple weeks on what is our value proposition and what do we want our work culture to look like. And as we're growing, right? We have established that as our team. And now what we're in office, we're 9, but we are looking to hire a couple more. And what we realized was the best way that in an interview process, we can see if somebody fits into the culture is to take the time to really establish what that culture looks like. And one of the things that we kept coming back to is we don't like people that say that's not my job. And it was interesting. And what we mean by that is example. Shannon is on the road a lot right now between networking events and the holiday event that we're hosting. And she normally sits at the front desk and just taking turns of whoever's saying like, hey, I'll sit at the front desk and answer the phone when it rings. It's no big deal. Versus coming in and saying, well, I'm not the office manager. That's not my job. And even Emma coming in and saying, hey, I know that we're working on these SOPs and these new structures and systems, and I really like organization. So if you need me, I can help with that,
Yes.
and what that looks like in your culture.
Yeah. And again, another key factor in just allowing the business to kind of grow and develop is that capability. I also, again, think that the primary thing there is it does come down to the person and having that correct person fill the role, whatever that may be. I also think in my experience, I have better results with those kinds of conversations when you kind of address them up front. You kind of treat employees like adults and you say, this is what we're asking you to do, and this is why. Most people are understanding of that, especially in a small business where they get to see everything from beginning to end. They're seeing
they
the
actually
entire
see
process.
The why, right? And I think that part, if we go from, and I know you can think of this from our parents' generation, and in our parents' generation, you went to work, you punched your time clock, you took your lunchbox, you were there for 9 hours, and you came home and you didn't talk about it. You didn't it was just that's what you that's what you did.
Yep.
And I think that today, in a good way, I think that today's workforce, they want to know why they're doing it. They want to have purpose in it. And I think that even putting the right people in the right seats is looking at what gives them that purpose and giving them more opportunities to do that. But them also, like you said, having that real honest conversation about what doesn't fulfill them, what doesn't make them feel comfortable, and also adjusting that accordingly.
And I think within the team dynamic, unfortunately, there are also hard decisions to be made as well in terms of, is this employee the right fit?
Right.
And in the big picture, what is his or her future with the company in view of that fit question?
Yeah.
And we have had to make a few of those difficult decisions over the years too. And, I think you just kind of have to be, if I can say it this way, like relentlessly, focused on what your end goal and what your mission is.
Right.
And you have to be willing to.
And that can be really hard when you sincerely care about that person and their family, and being a wonderful person isn't necessarily the same as being the right fit for the position that the company as a whole needs at that time.
No question.
Learning to know the difference and executing that as an owner is a really hard thing, which I'm sure in specifically what you do as a lawyer, you come across that quite often, and your people have to navigate that with you, which is kind of an interesting perspective.
Yes, it is, for sure. And it creates challenges, but at the end of the day, we feel that, and I've learned over time that having the right people in place is worth those
hard
interim
conversations,
headaches, so to speak,
And it is one of those things that you say, hey, is this what's comfortable, or is this what is right?
Yes.
And I also know that being a leader, allowing your people to also share what they need and hearing them and trying your very best to make sure that their feedback doesn't fall on deaf ears, and trying to make sure that you're building the environment that they're really actively creating with you and hearing what they need from their coworkers.
Yes. We're kind of going through that right now because we are enhancing our benefits package that we're making available to our employees. And, as we've had the conversation with a health insurance broker, I've said to her that, yes, of course, there's the financial side of that commitment that I have to be mindful of and make sure that we are meeting our needs, that we're
and you're living within the business at its current size.
Yes.
And also loving your people and caring for them and weighing that scale, which is a very difficult scale to weigh.
Yes. And what I feel as, again, a business owner, and particularly as we're sort of small but growing, is that it is worth the expense to ensure that we retain good, qualified people as opposed to just looking at it as a strict dollars and cents analysis. And it would be more expensive for me to lose a quality person because of something where if I outlaid a little bit more monthly expense, I could have retained, superstar ex-employee, and that is, I think, a hard balance to strike, but it's one that we're kind of navigating right now.
Yeah, and we just went through that. We spent literally, I can't believe it's almost the end of November already. In January, we set forth kind of goals that I had as the owner in regard to insurance and enhancing our benefit package and working on, things like our handbook and SOPs and job descriptions, and then having to take those as a business owner and say, okay, how do I run the business and have a personal life and work on these and make the right choices and give them the time that they deserve to make sure that I'm implementing the right system. And I'm sure if you're going, it's a lot. Like it's, and I think that for me, one of the things that our finalized handbook just went to the HR coordinator for like final approval. And I'm actually kind of grateful that I took the time over the last 6 months to really think about all the potential possible situations that could come into play and make sure that I gave a clear running track for our team so that expectations were specific and getting feedback from them on like, hey, we'll follow whatever that looks like. We just need to know what that is.
Yes. Right. And a handbook is a really good sort of baseline to have, again, even from the standpoint of, like you say, setting expectations, creating that sort of legal landscape, so to speak. And so we have that in place. And I did not, even though I'm capable, I did not draft my own because
you did it. Well, I guess that's not your specialty specifically. Yeah.
I've done it before.
Yeah.
But I felt that it was in our best interest to hire someone to do that for us because then it would absolutely get done.
Yeah.
Right. So
I love the company that helped me do ours. The representative there every month would send me an email and she's like, just your monthly check-in to see how it's going.
Yes.
And it was drafted and they had a great questionnaire and all of that. They did a fabulous job. And then just coming back and coming from the wording of my heart and the heart for the company versus the standard, and knowing the difference between the two. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I think that's a really good point. You have to kind of mold, I guess, your written word and the written policies to what you are seeking to accomplish for your team in the big picture. And that's not always easy to do either.
No.
But
and it's also one of the interesting things, and I'm sure that you can entirely understand. I'm sure that your wife, Rachel, could probably understand even more, is understanding the difference between what work-life balance and when we should be working, looks like to a individual who wants the safety and security of a salaried position or an hourly position versus what that work-life balance and work environment looks like for an entrepreneur, and knowing that those aren't the same. That was
Yes.
something really, really hard for me in writing our handbook. Was example, the other night I had to get one email out, one email out, but it's one that I needed to think about and I needed to structure properly, but that's all I had to do. And it took me an hour.
Yeah.
And it didn't take me an hour because it took an hour to write the email. It was because, can you brush my hair? Can you
Yes.
help me pick out my pajamas? Can you get the water bottle down? Can you, the dog needs to go out, all of those things. And I was in the midst of writing the handbook when this one situation happened. And I thought, for me specifically, I am not a hourly employee.
Yeah.
And so that should look different, and not because one should be different than the other, but simply because of the career path that I have chosen versus the career path that they have chosen.
Yes. And there's a trade-off too. Like, I'm able to adjust my schedule to allow for things such as coaching youth sports,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
we're coming into basketball season. So I've got a rec basketball team that I'll be putting through the paces in a few weeks.
Very nice. Very nice.
Whistle in hand. So I'm looking forward to that.
We should get whistles in baseball. I feel like our kids would look at us and be like, no,
Yes.
please stop.
It doesn't quite have the same echo in a baseball field either. When you're in a gym and
Yes.
you blow the whistle
Yes.
and authoritatively say everybody on the baseline,
Yes.
it just has a certain vibe to it that
That's
baseball
funny.
field
Yeah.
doesn't quite allow. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, my work schedule at this point, probably my most productive hours I've learned for me are first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are freshmen in high school and a seventh grader. My wife teaches in the same district where they go, so she's able to transport them to school, sometimes from school as well, depending on what their activities are and so on. But that then in turn allows me to get into the office by
Very early.
7 a.m.
Yeah.
And that allows me an hour or two of quiet time to get through those things that have been on my list for a few days.
Yes.
And that's kind of the rhythm of my practice and the business aspect of what I do. I have found that, by the time it gets to 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, like I'm spent, and I need sort of the release. It's almost like the recess
Yes.
aspect of being a business owner. I need recess from like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
so that I can coach baseball or basketball, read a novel, catch up on true crime on Netflix, things of that sort to allow me to kind of recharge the batteries for the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get that. And walking through what that looks like and how that looks like for each role in your company and each what do they call that, the like classification of employee and all of that. So for you, what does a healthy workplace culture look like?
Yeah, good question. So I think in our culture, we try to do a couple of things that help set that culture. One is once and most likely multiple times a week, I get lunch for people that are there, whether I'm in the Harrisburg office or the Lancaster office. We get lunch.
Yeah.
And unless it's my birthday, on my birthday, I'll pick. But other than that, I let my employees select where would you like to order from today, and just tell me where you want to get food from, and let me know what you want, and we'll go get it.
I love that.
That's an important thing. We recognize birthdays.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to us. We also have found that we have a team that is fairly competitive internally, right? So we have done a few golf tournaments. Typically for our holiday party, we will incorporate some sort of competition. A couple years ago, it was a retro video game.
Oh, that's fun.
Extravaganza, if you
Yeah.
will. So we did that. This year, we're going to incorporate bowling. And so we have found that our employees kind of like that aspect of competing and having a good natured time with each other. Other things that we do, we have a fantasy football league that is
Hunter is in one of those right now, and it's so funny. Him and Andy have started bonding over this fantasy. Could you imagine a fantasy football league? I'm looking at Emma, who's recording this, with all of the women in our office that are like, yay, sports. And then Emma and Ryan would just dominate the whole thing.
You never know, though, because the folks in my league who are perhaps not as knowledgeable, and at least a couple of those live under my roof, they are vying for first place and a playoff spot. Yes.
And maybe that's that ignorance is bliss in that, right? Because it's really all to chance and who gets hurt and who doesn't get hurt. And
yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
The other thing for us is that, like, weekends are important. Unless there's an emergency, and a true emergency, like an illness, where I have a hearing on Monday morning at 9:30 in York, and, I have a fever and I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
I try really hard not to contact employees over the weekend, even salaried employees. Now, salaried employees, the distinction is that, they are earning their pay based on getting the job
the
done, not
performance
necessarily
versus the hours.
Right, the hourly timesheet. But at the same time, I have worked in law firms where the work-life balance was not as healthy. And as much as I learned a lot of useful things from the places that I have worked prior to opening my own office, I've also learned some important things about what not to do and what I don't want my business to look like.
Yeah.
And so, allowing employees to be free of emails, texts, things like that over the weekend is really important. I think.
I mean, we are very much I work a lot and I allude that kind of back to like the salaried employee versus the hourly employee. And with you coaching baseball and the kids and the sports schedules, I have found that I work more on the weekend, but that is more because I am having to leave earlier during the week, things like that. And when the kids have stuff during the weekend, that gives me the opportunity to get some things done. Versus an hourly employee, right, and putting the right people in the right seat, they are very much, hey, I'm 100% sold out when I'm here. And I like this structured schedule so I can go do what brings me joy personally when I'm not here.
Yep.
And I'm 100% focused on this when I am here. And I feel like that falls back to finding the right people in the right seats. And I love that what you were saying on the culture thing too. We do this thing called weekly spread. So every week, every Monday after our staff meeting, one member of the staff signs up to bring lunch for the whole office, and it rotates. So the cool thing is, right, Monday, the last thing you want to do is think about what you're going to pack for lunch. And it gives us a way to experience everybody else's, what they enjoy to make, what they enjoy to eat, those sides of things. And I always love that, like Monday morning, it's already Monday morning. And I'm like, yes, I don't have to think about lunch today. But that's something that I think that in our office, we have really embraced, and it's on it. We just had one this past Monday, and now it's going on break through the holiday. And I was like, oh, I'm like sad. And then, I'm excited for it to come back in January, but that's been something cool. But yes, I agree fully on sometimes something's urgent, but being a buffer between what is urgent and that work-life balance, and that we signed up to be the entrepreneur,
right?
And they signed up to be the support person for that, and knowing the difference between the two.
Yes, and I think also like recognizing that, to your point, your employees signed up for something other than business ownership, and not, if you will, holding them to the same standard that you hold yourself to, and or not, making an employee feel as though they should be doing X, Y, or Z because you are. They didn't choose that. They responded to an ad. They expressed interest in an open position, whatever that may be.
That was something that I learned a lot, is because for me, corporate America felt like a prison.
Yeah.
And that is why I started my own company. And I love, again, that open dialogue with your team. Like, we're only going to be 2 years old at the end of December. And having them have the opportunity to share with me those realizations almost. And I feel like it's great for every entrepreneur to say, that's what drives you.
Yes.
That's what makes you tick. That's why you're in your right seat is the owner. But your people, what makes them powerful and in the right seat is not the same as you.
Right.
That's why they're the employee, because that's the right seat for them.
Yes.
And learning, like, that has been a very evolving and empowering thing to learn the difference over the last 2 years. And knowing that, hey, I feel imprisoned from being in this building from 9 to 5 every day. They feel empowered by it because they know when they walk out the door, that's their time.
Yes.
And for me, it's running all the time, and it doesn't burn me out. It brings me joy. It fills me up, and knowing the difference between the two.
Yeah. No, and I think that employees also don't want to come into a situation where they are made to feel as though they need to do something beyond what they signed up for.
Right.
And I have had that experience in my professional career where I was kind of made to feel as though I had even greater responsibility than I did. And ultimately that kind of created two things. It created some burnout on my part.
Maybe some resentment.
Yes, some resentment.
Those are the two words that I thought of.
Yes, and it ultimately caused me to look for a different position.
Yeah.
And that is something that I don't want to create in my world, so to speak.
And I think that was something that I was very appreciative of my team coming to me and helping me to realize the difference between the two. And, coming from my personal, what makes me tick versus what makes them tick. And it's not the same thing. And when you embrace that, then great things come, because everybody's working and living in the place that fills their cup up.
Yes.
And they can be great in that capacity.
Yes.
And, I love that. So in closing, is there any final advice that you would give for leaders to make sure that they're putting the right people in the right seats?
Sure. So I think that we'll kind of maybe I'll end where we started, that I think it's important to identify the right person, first of all. If you have the right person, especially when you're in the service industry, you can train that right person for the ultimate position. I think identifying the right person who has the right work ethic for the spot that you have is important. Then I think the next most important aspect of it truly comes back to that transparency aspect, because an employee, even if they're the right person and you know that they're the right person, needs to have a clear understanding of what their role will be.
Right.
And what their expectations are.
Yes.
And if you can start with the right person and continue that conversation with that person on a transparent level, it just starts the relationship off on the right foot, and allows the relationship and the job duties, honestly, to kind of grow organically.
Right.
And I think that if you can accomplish those things, it will set your employment relationship off on a really good start and will allow you to build from that foundation.
Right.
And that foundation of transparency and openness and, synergy, some of the other concepts that we talked about, also allow you to handle or manage the challenging aspects. It's not all rainbows and
it is
sunshine.
Not, no.
But, if you have that foundation, it will make your employee-employer relationship
I feel
smooth.
like that foundation is key.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, even being a newer business owner in the first 2 years, I say to my team all the time, like, hey, I'm still learning too. And I need you to help me learn so that I can be the best. I don't like the word boss, but so I can be the best boss to you. And again, I think I don't like the word boss because I was so scarred by bad bosses in corporate America that like it set the whole trajectory of my adult mindset about employees versus entrepreneurs. And I am honestly so proud of my team for helping me come through those walls that I had about it.
Yeah.
And saying like, that's because you had a bad experience, but let's create a really great experience and let's hear where your heart is and just build that into something that you feel really strong and passionate about. And we have a really great understanding of what that looks like.
Yes. And I think even as a business owner, two concepts that really impact how I run the business on a day-to-day basis. I feel like even as a business owner, you are working with your employees and you're working for each other, right? They're not working for you. You're all collectively working for each other.
Yep.
And I think if you have that structure and that mindset, it's a far more productive and rewarding relationship on both sides as opposed to thinking of, X, Y, and Z employees work for me.
Right.
And
100%.
We're working for each other. Truthfully, we're all in it together.
We just went, my leadership team and I just went and heard Peter Greer speak. And he had a section on his slide about his topic was how leaders lose their way and how to avoid that happening. And one of the things that they talked about, or that he talked about, was clean the latrine. And what he meant by, I thought he meant by that was like getting all the negative people out of your space, like clean the latrine, get all the negative energy out. And he was like, no, he was like, but yes, you should also do that. But clean the latrine was, don't ever expect anyone on your team to do something. Be a servant leader. And when you are a servant leader, meaning that, hey, I'm gonna do the things that need to get done. And if that thing is cleaning the toilet, I'm gonna do that. And the coolest thing that happened, and it was so cool. I had run into the office that morning before that actual conference, and there were like leaves all over the front doormat. But we had to go. And I thought to myself, as soon as I get back to the office, I need to vacuum them up because it's bothering me.
Yes.
And I came into the office and it was done. And I literally said, who vacuumed the doormat? And Maria was like, oh, I did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, oh, I did because nobody, it was just, you did what you needed to get done.
Yes.
And it was something that I didn't run out the door saying somebody needs to do that. But the amazing thing on that culture aspect, that my culture just knew that it needed to get done and they did it.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cool story to say, are you living and breathing that in your culture?
Yes, right. And I think, again, that shows that at the end of the day, the employees understand that they're working for each other.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really important way to look at it because, to use the other analogy that we hear a lot of times, you all have to be kind of rowing in the same direction.
Yeah. Yep.
And, the visual of that is pretty powerful too.
Right.
Where you have to understand that, like, if you have a 4-person boat and 3 of you are going, pushing the boat forward and one's pushing backwards, like it's not going to work as efficiently.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So And like I say, we are all trying to do this together.
Yes.
And if you can get that buy-in,
Yeah.
it really is a critical kind of developmental thing for your business,
Yeah. And I think it's life-changing. I think that when your employees find joy,
Yes.
and you find joy,
Yeah.
and you allow them to succeed and be powerful where they're in the right
Yeah.
seat, it really just creates this really, really cool thing.
Yes.
And something that you can be really proud of and that your team can be really proud of.
Right. We have, of course, generally, and we are not unique to this, but clients or potential clients call attorneys generally when they have a problem, right? So, I've heard different comments like, "I really like it here,"
Oh, yeah.
and then I think to myself sometimes, I'm like, "You do? Like this is hard, Like
Yeah.
it's because we deal with sometimes people
Some
who
really
are having
hard,
their
their worst
day
day.
of their professional career,
Yeah.
whether they were injured, whether they were terminated from their job, what have you. And like, I think you can overcome those challenges associated with the actual work you
Yeah.
do if you have a culture that allows your employees to say, "Oh, I like it here."
Well, and I thought while you're saying that, what a beautiful thing that your workplace has created that culture that when somebody, like you said, might be going through the worst part of their financial, or not their,
Yeah.
well, and financial,
Yes,
but
absolutely,
the
yeah.
worst part of their professional career, to walk into a place and it be a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
Because they're saying, hey, it doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
And you're creating that. So kudos to you guys. Like that, when people say when they walk in the door and they like coming here,
Yes.
I think that's the biggest compliment to our team, is that we're creating that environment that people desire to
Yes.
be in.
Right.
Yeah. Not that anybody desires to go, have to deal with a workplace environment issue, but to know that you're being that breath of fresh air and saying there is a different way.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful thing that I think even from my perspective, I look at and say, we're not doing everything right. No business does everything right. But we're doing enough things right that people don't dread coming to work.
Yes.
Because I've been in those environments too.
I have too. Yeah.
And that is a really difficult place to be.
It is.
And so I'm fortunate, but I also feel that it's that again it strikes back to the very original comment, putting the right people in the right places. Like it's not me,
Right.
Like
But it's being intentional.
right.
Yep.
We as business owners have a clear way to set the culture, but when I leave for the day to
Right.
go to York for a hearing,
Right.
what is the culture like
After
left
you leave.
behind?
Right.
And that's an important thing, that you have to put the right people in the right places in order to feel confident that what you want is going to carry forward even when you're not there physically.
So true. So true. Well, Eric, thank you so much for being my guest today.
You're welcome.
I feel like we had a really awesome conversation and I feel really impactful. So thank you for that. And to everybody, that's a wrap on season 1 of The Blueprint. We will see you in the new year. So bye.
All right. Thanks again for having me.
Yep. Bye, Eric.
See ya.